Materials required for the art of spray painting can be found anywhere. I would begin in your garage and see what you have. You're going to need various colors. Make sure that they're all gloss and part of the same brand. Usually mixing brands can cause some undesired effects. You're going to need Posterboard. You're going to need some magazine sheets, masking tape, popsicle sticks, foam brushes, different size thread edges, the Spraycasso tools. If you have any questions on how to create the Spraycasso tools, please visit my website at www.spraycasso.com. You're also going to need different size thread edges. Most importantly, we recommend you use a mask that has filters on the side. Though spray painting can be a lot of fun, it can be very hazardous to your health. So if you're going to spray paint, make sure you do it outside or in a well-ventilated area. Please spray paint responsibly.
Hello crew, and welcome back to another Spraycasso tutorial. I'm your host and friend Arturo Spraycasso. Today we're going to be working on this painting called Lightning Strike. This painting was a lot of fun to make, and as you can tell, we're going to be using some intermediate to advanced level techniques. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Grab your spray paints. Let's begin.
In today's spray painting, we're going to use a 16-inch by 20-inch canvas. You might want to just run your hand through it, make sure that there's no dirt, that there's no little bit of trash on top. You're also going to want to shake your cans and pre-spray them before you begin using them. I do this on a trash can. Just shake the can and spray it in there until you see the color come out. What this does is that it ensures that the drying agents and the gloss chemicals mix with the paint. Thus, you get more vibrant colors. Our first layer is going to be pink. This is going to be our sky layer. Now, I know I want a light source to be up here, and I want to create a body of water. So I'm going to reflect the same colors. Rule of thumb in art, as above, so do below. Alright. Gonna make sure I get some of this. Remember, this is a canvas, so there's about an inch of canvas that goes off on the sides. You might want to get those. You don't necessarily have to do it, but I usually do. Now that we have our pink, I'm gonna fill some of our negative space. What's our negative space? Well, that's where the canvas shows through. That's the blank spots. By allowing some of this blue overspray, it's gonna create a nice transitional effect in your painting. As you see, where the negative space is, the blue will be able to show brightly. Where it starts to mix with the pink, you'll have a little transitional color of purple. We want this. We want this. We want to give the illusion that this is a night sky and that you have a nice bright light source in the middle. I'm going to add some of the blue here on the bottom. Remember, this is where I want my water to go. Let's do that all the way around. Make sure you don't leave any of the negative space. Okay, so far we've used two layers, pink and blue. Now we're adding our third layer. This is going to be black. We also want to have some of that overspray land onto our blue, giving us that transitional fade between the colors. Notice how I'm letting some of that overspray go all the way around. Here I'm trying to tackle some of the edges, that 1-inch edge. Okay. There's a similar technique to this called the dream technique, and we'll cover that in future spray paintings to come. For now, let's continue to work on our night sky. I want this to be a nice bright night sky. So make sure you get some of that black and make sure you do the transitional coloring so that it looks more realistic. And don't worry, if you feel you've gone too dark, you can always add another layer of blue, just like we're going to do here. Just going to add a little bit of blue here on these edges, not a whole lot. See, I can still see a little bit of that negative space here on the bottom. Good. Alright, now let's work on our stars. How you say? Well, this is called the star technique. You're going to need your white. This is a very simple technique, and we use this a lot on beginner level spray paintings. You take your spray can parallel to your painting, you aim it at a 45-degree angle, and you sputter it. You want to squeeze the cap very gently and just let it sputter onto your painting. Let me show you. And it may take a few tries. If the can is brand new, it has a lot of pressure, it may take a few more tries than usual. Ideally, you want to use a can that you've used quite a few times. Less pressure makes it a little easier. Alright, we're just going to let it fall here. And notice how you direct it. Now I recommend you do this before you start adding your terrain, any other layers that are in front of you. You want to make sure that those layers closer to you overlap our star layer. Let's create some terrain. To do this, I'm going to use a magazine sheet. Why a magazine sheet? For several reasons. First of all, the tablecloth is black, and I want you guys to see how much spray paint I put on this magazine sheet. Also, when I'm done with it, I can just pick it up and throw it away and continue painting. This is the soft tip Spraycasso tool. You can find this on my website. There's similar tools out there that you can go and find at arts and crafts stores. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to tap into some of this black and smear the paint onto our canvas. This is a silhouette layer of a terrain. However, you'll realize how realistic and how intricate this silhouette layer can get. I want my background to have a lot of detail, and this is probably the easiest way of doing it. As you can tell, it doesn't take a whole lot. You may have to use quite a bit of spray paint. Let's just spray a little bit more here. Using our soft tip Spraycasso tool, we're just going to come up here and add a little bit more to our terrain. One of the things I love the most about this art is how fast you can create a masterpiece in just a few minutes. As you can tell, it doesn't take a whole lot. We do have to work with layers, but after a few spray paintings, you'll get used to it. Everything about spray painting is correctable, by the way. I know I dropped a little bit of spray paint there on the canvas, but I was going to turn that into a piece of terrain, and I'll show you guys how to go back and fix some of these mistakes. There's no mistakes in spray painting. Just going to spray a little more right here. Put that down. Tap, tap, tap. Very easy. Anybody can do this, and you can do this with different styles spray paintings. Here I'm just adding a rough edge. Perhaps this is a piece of land where the viewer's standing to see this scenery in the background. Now I'm not really going to concentrate on filling up this entire space. We can do that later with the spray can. Just going to spray it black. Add a little bit more spray paint here, and I'm going to create another piece of terrain. Remember that little accident we had earlier? Look at that, it is gone. Just a couple of strokes, and we created a nice piece of terrain right here. Tap, tap, tap. This is also the same way that I used to create reflections. We'll talk about that later. Just going to smear a little bit more land here. Alright, I'm going to add a little more black. Using our sea sponge. Guys, sea sponge, there's so many things you can do with the sea sponge. You can use brushes, but if you're going to use a brush, make sure you use a cheap brush, because after a few uses with spray paint, they become unusable. With the sea sponge, I just throw it away. So we tapped into some black, and I'm going back and forth, zigzagging to create a pine tree. A happy little tree here in the background. Right, very easy to do. Look at that. Tap, 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 tap. And you can always go back, add more detail. Okay, I'm going to create the illusion that there is a pine tree closer to us. So I'm going to make it taller. I make it a little bit bigger. Just going to zigzag back and forth. Very, very easy. Okay. You know what? Let's do the same to this side. Now, because this pine tree, once again, is even closer than the one before it, I'm going to make it taller. Using the same technique, just zigzagging back and forth, add a little bit of grass. Using the grass technique, basically, we just smear upwards. Okay? I'm going to use some clear coat. What clear coat does with spray paintings is it helps the painting stay moist. Some of the layers are easier to manipulate in this manner, and you can create the illusion of water by smearing them together. See? Use my finger. You can do that. I'm going to use the soft tip Spraycasso tool, and I'm just going to combine some of these colors. You don't want to scratch them. You just want to mix them together. And you want to stay pretty consistent in the pattern that you're using. In this case, I'm just moving back and forth. This will give us the illusion of running water. Alright. We're going to want to do this all the way down to the bottom. Okay, once again, I'm going to tap into some orange this time. This is actually a combination of orange and pink. And I'm just going to add some extra highlights to our water. Not that our water really needs them, but I just think it's going to add more color. It's going to make the water a little bit more vibrant. So I'm just going to add some of this color, and I'm also making sure that I add these colors right next to our rocks so that they stand out. Okay, excellent. Alright, using the hard tip Spraycasso tool, you can also get this on the website, and a little bit of clear coat, or you can make your own. I have plenty of video tutorials showing you how to make your own Spraycasso tool. We're just going to start from the top, and I'm going to scratch some of this paint. Yep, scratching is also a layer, and is widely used for creating highlights and details such as this one. Here I'm just going to freehand the lightning bolt. You can definitely go on any search engine and type in lightning bolts, and they'll definitely give you an idea of what they look like. Now I know they have a lot of little lines coming out. They almost look like a root if you think about it. So I'm just going to try and imitate one. Create little lines coming out. Just like that. And I also want some of these lines to fill up some of that bright pink layer that we have behind it. This will give us a better illusion that this is what's creating the light source. Okay. Remember how we left this spot empty? Well, we're just going to go over it with some black spray paint. No need to add a whole lot of detail. The main detail is right here on the edge. That's all we really require. I'm just going to darken up some of these edges here. And get some of the edges on the side. Okay, I think that's good enough. Alright, now then, let's add another layer. This is going to be a silhouette layer, but this is going to be the grass technique. So we're going to use a piece of sea sponge. You don't need a whole lot, just a little bit. You can always trim it. Just going to practice here. Move those out of the way. Now I want you to see the detail that you can get with a silhouette layer. Not only did we create our background using a silhouette layer, but now we can add the finer details. And it's the details that will make your painting stand out. I want to add some grass here that goes into the water. Again, a little bit of sea sponge. Doesn't require a lot. And when you're done with it, you can just toss it away, tear up another piece. We're going to go probably add a little bit here, right on the edges. With some orange, we're going to add a layer of highlights. So I'm going to take my handy dandy soft tip Spraycasso tool, and I'm going to add highlights to our terrain, to some of the rocks that we placed down. This will just bring a little more color to our background. Remember, this was just a silhouette layer, so it was just black. Now it's time we add some of the highlights to add some more realism to this painting. Tap here, maybe a little bit right here. This tool is great for doing a lot of different effects, a lot of different techniques, and the best part about it, unlike the sea sponge that you just throw away, with a little bit of clear coat, you can clean your tool right off and don't have to worry about color contamination. Very easy to do. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit of white onto our water. This can be perhaps a little bit of that water foam, some highlighted areas. It'll add a little more realism to the water. This is also the way that you create waves, smearing some of these colors together. Now I want more white to be displayed closer to the lightning bolt than I do as we get closer to the viewer. Just gonna add a couple highlights here. I want to make sure I get some of those highlights around the rocks. That makes a nice defined line that separates the rocks from the water. Alright, time for another layer. I'm going to use a little bit of black. It's going to be a silhouette layer. I'm just going to spray it off right here. using a piece of sea sponge. Here we go. I'm just going to tap into this a little bit. And we're going to add another layer of plant life. I'm just going to overlap some of the terrain that I highlighted earlier. This gives it a little more realistic, because you have a layer that overlaps some of the rocks, overlaps some of the highlighted areas. It gives the illusion that it is closer to us. Using the Spraycasso funnel, I'm going to create a tree. This funnel is really great. It allows you to do very intricate details, very fine detailing. And it's great for creating trees. I'm just going to go up and down here a couple of times. Make sure you get the base of the tree. Added some small branches. This is a smaller version of the Spraycasso funnel. And I'm going to add a little bit of pink right here on this edge of the tree. Remember, when you're adding your highlights, you want them to be closer to the light source. We're going to tear off a piece of magazine and we're going to fold it. Well, we're going to bend it. We don't want to fold it. We want to bend it in the shape of a U, just like this. Now I'm going to start tapping from the paint to the dark area of our tree. Tap, tap, tap. This will make sure that it mixes with some of the dark color underneath, giving us some darker pinks, giving us the illusion of a bark. Very easy to do, and it makes your trees look very realistic. Now it's time to add some highlights. Yep, you heard me right, highlights. So I'm going to take another piece of sea sponge and one of our bright colors. In this case, I'm going to use a little bit of orange. And like I said, a new piece of sea sponge. Doesn't take a whole lot. I'm just going to tap into it. Just add certain highlights. Right about here. This can be perhaps small flowers. I don't know, different kinds of plants. This is your imagination. Have fun with it. I've always said that spray paintings are poems that use colors. So make a beautiful poem. Just gonna add some more highlights here. You want to make sure that these highlights also go into some of the darker areas. Good. Look at what you've created so far. Just gonna add a little more highlights here on the bottom. You want your highlights to be bright. I'm also gonna use a little bit of pink. Right? Now this is very similar to the water tinting technique, except we're not using a straight edge. We're using a little bit of that sea sponge and we're smearing some of the colors into the water. Notice I was using my finger to blend the colors together. You can definitely do that. You can use a magazine sheet as well. Let's continue to add some more highlights. This is going to help you define the plants a little bit better. Otherwise they'll kind of mush together. So by adding some highlights, they'll stand out. They'll separate from the other type of plants in the background. And again, it'll just add a little touch to realism to your painting. People will have a hard time believing that this is a spray painting. Okay, just gonna tap a little bit here. Add a few more highlights around this area. Perhaps we have a little bit more plant life here. Look at that. Now let me show you guys this. This is a smaller version of the Spraycasso funnel. And I use this to create finer details. It's very simple to use, the same way you use the regular Spraycasso funnel. But it's smaller, so it has a smaller outlet. And this allows for smaller and thinner lines to come out, so you can create better detail. You can create silhouette of people. Perhaps you wanted to add a fisherman here or a boat. This is the way you would do that. Here we added a couple of trees, added some branches to it. Now it's time that we use another layer, and this is going to be the tree leaves that we're going to add to these small trees. I'm just going to spray some spray paint here. Piece of sea sponge. Just going to tear it up a little bit. Put that piece up. Tap into some black. Now let me show you some of the texture that you can expect from the sea sponge. This is what makes the tree leaves look so realistic. I'm going to tap a little bit into it. And let's do this. Let's begin. I'm just going to add some tree leaves to all the little branches that we added. Perhaps this is a baby tree, maybe even a little bonsai. Or perhaps this is a tree unique to just your world. I've always said the paintings take a life of their own. Usually when I begin creating a spray painting, I have an idea of what I want it to look like, but it usually ends up taking me somewhere else. You know, some of the rocks will take a different shape that will lend itself to a particular tree. I encourage you to go with the flow. If this ever happens to you, just let it take you. See where you go. You might just be surprised. Okay, add a little more black and our sea sponge. I created another small tree back here. You can probably barely see it, but it's here. So we're just adding the tree leaves to them. We're gonna add a little bit more grass strands here on the edges of these rocks. Perhaps a little more grass strands going into the water here. The more layers you add to your painting, the better. You want to try and keep them thin. You don't want to make them too thick. Just the thin layers, as thin as possible. Alright, we're going to utilize a light blue or baby blue, whatever you guys want to call it. I think in this case it's light blue. And a piece of sea sponge. We're going to add some highlights, and I want these highlights to stand out more from the rest. They're also closer to us. And no matter what color they are, remember you want to keep them consistent. You want to keep them facing the light source. Just going to add a little bit of pink to that. When you mix these two colors together, you're going to get a purple hue. And it's going to be very light. I try and teach you guys how to create and combine your own colors. That way, in case you go to the store and you can't find a particular color, you'll know how to come up with a way of creating one similar to it. So if you can find light purple in the store, get it. If not, this is how you make it. Just gonna add a couple of highlights here on top of these tree leaves. Now I'm just doing this on the edges, see? You can also create some grass strands that are this color. Perhaps little flowers by tapping into it. Watch. You just tap, 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 tap. And you get instant little flowers. Just gonna go here, add a little bit more highlights here. And I want to go throughout my painting and just kind of balance it out. You don't want too much of one color in just one area, so you want to kind of distribute the color throughout your painting. Add a little bit more here on the bottom. Awesome. Okay, using our pink, just gonna spray a little bit right here. Another sea sponge. Just gonna tear it up. Alright. Okay. I'm gonna add some more pink highlights. Tap, 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 tap. Just gonna add them right here. We're gonna add them throughout some of our plants. Remember that the lightning bolt is pink, so you want some of that pink light to be on your plants, as well as your water. Alright. Well, crew, I think we're coming close to completing this spray painting. What do you guys think? Maybe just a few more little grass strands here. Oh, dropped it. Why not? Just gonna create some pink plants here on the bottom. And it's mixing with the black, so it's not completely pink. And there you have it, folks. That's what you created today. Lightning strike. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's spray painting. Until next time, folks, keep those cans spraying.